hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. You are so special to us. When he was a teenager, Albert Einstein had a dream that likely changed the course of scientific history. In the dream, Einstein was walking through a field when he noticed a group of cows far away in the distance, all leaning against an electric fence. The cows were enjoying the grass that had previously been out of their reach because of the fence. Beyond the cows, Einstein saw a farmer working near the opposite end of the fence, presumably fixing whatever had caused the loss of electricity. All of a sudden, Einstein saw the entire group of cows jump back from the fence at the same time. Rightly assuming that the fence had been repaired, Einstein walked on. When he reached the farmer, Einstein commented how humorous it had been to see all the cows jump back at the same time. But the farmer was confused. He told Einstein that's not what happened at all. From his perspective, the cows had jumped back one at a time, starting with the cow closest to him. Upon waking, the dream stayed in Einstein's mind. In fact, he continued to ruminate about the dream for decades. Eventually, his continued meditations on that subject became one of the factors that contributed to his theory of general relativity. Can you imagine anyone having a more significant dream than that? Actually, I can. More than 2,000 years ago, God gave Daniel a vision that we recognize as the most comprehensive prophetic insight ever received. God also sent a similar dream to the most powerful man in the world at that time. Looking back, we can see the effects of those dreams rippling throughout history and even into the future. Specifically, Daniel's vision operates as a sign of what we can expect to happen in Europe before and during the end times. Daniel's interpretation for the king, while it was not uncommon for God to communicate to his people through dreams and visions, it is astounding that he gave the greatest vision of all time not only to Daniel, but also to one of history's most wicked Gentile rulers, King Nebuchadnezzar. It was the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's rule over Babylon. Although all the king's enemies were subdued or in captivity, he nevertheless was anxious about the future. His anxiety stemmed from a dream sent to him by God, a nightmare he could not understand, though he sensed its ominous implications. So, the king called in his counselors. Since he had forgotten important details of the dream, he demanded that his counselors not only interpret the nightmare, but also give him a vivid description of it. The king's demand was unprecedented, and his counselors thought it unfair when they could not meet his demand. Nebuchadnezzar ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon, Daniel chapter 2 verses 12-13. When the Jewish captive Daniel heard of the king's edict, he and his friends asked God for a vision of Nebuchadnezzar's dream and its interpretation. Then Daniel went to the executioner and said, "Do not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Take me before the king, and I will tell the king the interpretation." Verse 24. Daniel was soon standing before Nebuchadnezzar, who asked him if he could reveal the meaning of his dream. Daniel explained that he could not, but he had connections with someone who could. The secret which the king has demanded, the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, and the soothsayers cannot declare to the king. But there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these verses 27-28. As Daniel explained, just as God had sent the dream to Nebuchadnezzar, God had also revealed the dream and its interpretation to Daniel verse 19. Then the Jewish prophet stood before the king and unfolded the future of his nation. Daniel described the king's vision. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. This image's head was of fine gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Verses 31-33. This vision gives us the history of human civilization. Written by God himself, Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar that his dream was about the kingdoms of this world. He explained that the metallic image represented for successive Gentile world powers that would rule over Israel in the days ahead. Daniel's insight into the future through Daniel. God gave King Nebuchadnezzar a history of the remaining days of the world. We know this because he spoke specifically of days to come. Verse 28:9. He revealed the meaning of the statue in 5 sections: the head of gold, the breast and arms of silver, the belly and thighs of copper and brass, the legs of iron, and the feet of part iron and part clay. The First World Empire, represented by the statue's head of gold, was Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom of Babylon. Daniel's words to the king are clear. You, O king, are a king of kings. For the God of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and glory, and wherever the children of men dwell, all the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heaven, he has given them into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. Verses 37-38. Nebuchadnezzar would have understood that the head of gold referred to his kingdom, since the chief deity of Babylon was Marduk, known as the god of gold. The historian Herodotus described the image of Marduk as a dazzling sight, a golden statue seated on a golden throne before a golden table and a golden altar. Pliny tells us that the robes of Marduk's priests were interlaced with gold. The Second World Empire revealed in the King's dream was represented by the image's chest of silver, from which to silver arms emerged. V. 32. This was the Medo-Persian Empire, which conquered Babylon in 539 BC and remained in power for approximately 200 years. Later, Daniel stated clearly that the dual monarchy of the Medes and the Persians would take control of Nebuchadnezzar's empire. Chapter 5 verse 28. The two nations are again confirmed as Babylon's successor in Daniel chapter 8 verse 20. The Third World Empire was represented by the image's belly and thighs of bronze. Daniel told the king it would be a kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. Chapter 2 verse 39. This is the Greek Empire, the kingdom of Philip of Macedon and his son, Alexander the Great. Not only does history confirm Greece as the empire that succeeded the Medo-Persians, but Daniel named Greece specifically in Daniel chapter 8 verse 21. Under Alexander, the Greek Empire encompassed more territory than either of the previous empires. It is appropriate that this third kingdom was characterized by the image's bronze midsection. Alexander's soldiers armored themselves in bronze helmets and breastplates, and they carried bronze shields and swords. The fourth empire in the image is symbolized by its legs of iron. Daniel describes this empire as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes. That kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Chapter to verse 40. Historians tell us that Rome was not only the successor to the Greek Empire, but they often use iron to describe the strength of the Roman Empire. Rome's iron rule, Rome's iron fist, Rome's iron legions. History confirms Daniel's explanation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The Babylonians were overthrown by the Medo-Persians. The Medo-Persians were conquered by the Greeks, and then the previous kingdoms were assimilated into one kingdom known as the Roman Empire. This empire came into existence 50 years before Jesus was born, and it continued in power throughout his earthly ministry. It was Roman rule that put Jesus on the cross. It was the Romans who ruled ruthlessly during the early days of the Church. The fact that Rome is represented in the statue by its two iron legs is also significant. By AD 395, the Roman Empire had split into two political areas of rule: the Latin-speaking West, with its capital in Rome, and the Greek-speaking East, with its capital in Constantinople, modern Istanbul, Turkey, which included the land of Israel. This division of the empire is depicted in the statue's two legs. This splitting of the mighty Roman Empire into two political units was not the last division that kingdom would suffer. Daniel noted that in the king's dream, the feet and toes were composed of a mixture of iron and clay. Though positioned at the bottom of the image, these extremities were apparently important, for Daniel said as much about the feet and toes as he said about all the other parts of the image combined. Daniel explained to the king the meaning of the material composing the image's feet, as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay. So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. They will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron does not mix with clay. Chapter to verses 40 to 43. According to Daniel, there is to be yet another division in the Roman Empire, symbolized by its 10 toes. Daniel foretells a time when the Roman Empire will consist of 10 kingdoms or leaders. Since the downward movement from one section of the statue to the next represents the passage of time, the feet and toes stage must follow the legs stage. But we find nothing in history that corresponds to a tenfold Roman coalition. That shows us that this fifth and final feet and toes stage kingdom is yet to perform its prescribed role. In human history, Daniel gives us another piece of information that enables us to understand the timing of the events in Nebuchadnezzar's dream. He tells us that this final form of the Roman Empire will exist when God sets up his earthly kingdom. In the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Verse 44. Thanks for watching. See you at the next episode. See you in the next videos. Until then, keep safe and health. God bless you.